Nowadays, nudity in Hollywood movies and TV shows is becoming more and more ubiquitous. But the more that I see it, the more that I start to ask myself, what exactly is the desired effect that nudity in the media is trying to achieve? Who are they trying to please? And what kinds of bodies do we constantly see? Based on my own personal observations of nudity in television and in film, I realized that most of the bodies that we tend to see were, of course, thin, cellulite-less, stretch mark-less, scar-less, super perky boobs, but modestly sized boobs, nothing too big to scare the children, hyperpigmentation-less, wrinkle-less, you know, the kinds of features that most of our bodies tend to have in real life, but that we don't tend to see on the big screen. And of course, nude scenes primarily, disproportionately, and overwhelmingly featured women, and were designed to appeal to the male gaze. While male characters are often shown maybe shirtless and maybe with their bottoms, I feel really proper referring to it as a bottom, by the way. I feel like I should be sipping a cup of tea with my pinky up. But while male characters were often displayed with maybe their shirts off or their bottoms exposed, female characters were more often than not full frontal nude. A 2018 analysis of 1,100 popular films found that 25.4% of women had roles that had some nudity versus 9.6% of men. And also, men accounted for 87% of directors and 81% of writers for 250 of the highest grossing domestic films of 2019.
And here are the all-male nominees.
And according to the New York Film Academy, in the top 500 critically ranked films from 2007 to 2012, over 26% of female actresses appeared partially nude versus less than 10% of men. Now, hypersexuality, particularly in the music industry of women, is a topic that I have broached before on this channel. If you haven't seen that video, then inserts card here. But the sexual exploitation of women, particularly in film and television, is one that I've noticed equally as much. Now, when the entire world started to go to hell last year, I started binging a lot of shows, but once I exhausted my Netflix queue of shows to binge, I started to watch Shameless. Now, I only really got past the first few seasons because if you guys have ever seen Shameless, there is a number of reasons why the show is not for everyone. It wasn't for me. While I can partially understand why the show received such critical acclaim in its early seasons, the excessive nudity in the show, honestly, for me, felt really gratuitous and designed just for shock value. It was kind of like, we're on Showtime and we can get away with this, so let's just try to be as edgy as possible and have boobs, boobs, boobs in every single episode.
Okay guys, so usually this is the part where I would show you guys b-roll of what I'm talking about, but for obvious reasons, I cannot show b-roll of nude scenes here on YouTube, so you're just gonna have to take my word for it or go back and watch the series because yeah, definitely not gonna insert nude clips here in this video.
I didn't feel like the nudity in a lot of times really even did anything to advance the plot. It was really honestly there for just shock value. Now, like I said, I didn't get very far in the show, but as far as I did get in the show, I remember, I would say just two instances. I am, after all, a cisgendered heterosexual woman, so I have to say that male nudity is something that does not go unnoticed for me, if you know what I mean. So I do remember, like I said, two instances where there was male nudity, at least as far as I got in the show, whereas in literally every single episode, somehow they worked a female nude scene into literally every single episode. And moreover, the female characters that we saw nude were thin and all of those features that we discussed at the top of this video. For those of you guys who are not familiar with the show Shameless, it takes place in an extremely low-income neighborhood, and these are their words, not mine, in the quote-unquote hood. Now for me, if you guys are new to my channel, sociology, social issues, we examine things through a socio-economical lens more often than not on this channel. So for me, socioeconomically, realizing that your access to food is directly proportionate to your income and the way that you look like is also directly proportionate to your income, right? So these people who are super low income and are living in the quote-unquote hood, in my opinion, would probably have bodies that were less akin to Victoria's Secret models and more akin to the average everyday woman, but we don't really see that connection. And for me, I'm just like, okay, verisimilitude, we're a little bit lacking here. Now, once again, I couldn't bear to watch the show beyond the first few seasons, so I don't know if they started to be more inclusive of different kinds of body types as the show went on. I don't know if it went went on to have a more equal display of male nudity as female nudity. Now, as many of you guys know, if you guys are not in fact new here, many of you guys know that I am a really big fan of Jamila Jamil and her podcast, I Weigh. So I was listening to an episode in which actress Deborah Messing was a guest, and she detailed her experiences while filming the movie A Walk in the Clouds. Now, she was told that she would not have to be nude in this movie, and then she was forced to, on the spot, after being guaranteed that she would not have to be filmed nude in this movie, on the spot was forced and threatened that she would be fired if she did not comply. She was forced to be nude in a scene.
And I ran and I went to the producers, because before I came there, I was told by the producers that every actress who ever worked with Alfonso Arau was required to sign a nudity waiver, saying that they were okay with doing nudity. And I wouldn't sign it. And they called me and said, we promise you, this movie is not an R-rated movie. It's a PG movie, PG-13. You are not going to be nude. Just to allay him and his ego, just sign it. And so I ran to these people and I was like, they're telling me I have to be naked. You promised me that I wasn't going to have to be naked. And they said, in the American version.
And guess what? After humiliating her, after completely embarrassing her and forcing her to be nude, the scene was ultimately cut from the movie.
Like, you're telling me that a group of people looked at a 16-year-old girl in the screen tests, and they said her breast didn't look big enough. And they ordered wardrobe to bring me 2 chicken cutlets and a push-up bra at 16.
Now, instances like these are not uncommon in Hollywood, which is why I find it so unbelievably dangerous that we constantly perpetuate this narrative that whenever we see a nude or scantily clad woman, it's done so in the name of sexual liberation. This argument ignores the pressures that women face in Hollywood that men do not. The pressure that they will not be seen as valuable unless they are hypersexualized. Now, someone left a really well-meaning comment. They were not throwing shade, and I am not throwing shade by pointing out their comment, but I'm just doing so I can broach this subject and anticipate this subject that I know that some people may be thinking. This person left a comment saying they see no problem with the hypersexualization of women as long as they're doing it to themselves, and they see no problem with sex work. A woman hypersexualizing themselves for themselves absolutely does not bother me. The problem, once again, is that industries like the sex work industry is literally controlled by men, whether it's the customers or the pimps. Similarly, in Hollywood, women are often being controlled by male managers, male directors, male producers who tell them that their only value is their body and that they'll never be successful if they don't take off their clothes. For me, branding it as feminism is most definitely a misnomer because it completely ignores the pressures that women face. Now, once again, I'm not blaming or shaming women who choose to make their living this way, because after all, we live in a patriarchal society that tells women that they have to be hypersexual human beings to make money, but at the same time shames women for being hypersexual human beings. But I also think it's super dangerous to present a lot of these women as feminists, because a lot of them traffic in pick-me-ism, and a lot of them traffic in calling other women 4-letter words or reminding us that they only have one sexual partner. But getting back to the subject of the sexual exploitation of women in films and in television, another show that I absolutely loved that was guilty of this was Suits. Former Suits actress, and I guess now also former Duchess of Sussex, Meghan Markle, once said when talking about her time on Suits that in the show, every script seemed to begin with Rachel, which was the character that Meghan played, entering in a towel. Now, Meghan ended up ultimately speaking with the show's producers and was able to get them to cut down on her scantily clad scenes in the show. And last year, Keira Knightley announced that she would no longer be shooting nude scenes with male directors. But most women in Hollywood don't have this option. Now, other popular Emmy Award-winning shows like Game of Thrones, Entourage, and countless others have also been met with criticism for featuring overwhelmingly female nudity. And I haven't actually seen the show Bridgerton, but upon surveying my friends who watch the show, they all agree that the show overwhelmingly portrays female nude characters versus just a couple instances of male nudity. But all in all, as sex scenes continue to become more and more commonplace in popular films and television shows, I would really like to live in a world where there was an equal portrayal of male nudity as there was of female nudity. I would also like to live in a world where men and women of all body types were displayed in the nude. Now, as always, I want to hear from you guys in the comments down below. I am sure, without even asking you guys, that I know for a fact that you guys have noticed, if you look back at some of your favorite shows that have lots and lots of nudities, nudities. Have you guys noticed this trope? I would love to hear from you guys in the comments down below. And while you guys are here, definitely give this video a like if you enjoyed it, and subscribe, and definitely take a moment to check out some of my other videos. So I will see you guys next time, and thank you so much for watching. And also, on a side note, I need to clear out my entire computer search history because it literally looks like I'm a porn addict after doing research for today's video.